In the last 3 days before I leave this world, I decided to be a perfect husband to Helen, just as she had always wanted. I no longer fought with her endlessly about her first love. On the first day, she scoffed. Glad you finally wised up. If you'd been like this sooner, everyone would be happy. On the second day, her gaze was complicated, her voice full of confusion. Leo, why aren't you angry? I smiled faintly. Isn't this what you've always wanted? Chapter 1. Before reconnecting with the system, Helen and I had already been in a cold war for a week. Host, you've finally decided to leave, haven't you? The system's voice sounded almost gleeful. I didn't blame it. When I successfully won over Helen years ago and decided to stay, the system had tried to persuade me otherwise. Based on my years of experience, those who stay never end well, it had warned. But I had been overly confident in the unbreakable love between Helen and me, and I resolutely refused. Now, I smiled bitterly. How much time do I have left? It could be as soon as 3 days. I nodded, deciding to cherish this time and spend it well with Helen. After the system left, I took out my phone and called Helen. It was the first time we had contacted each other in a while, but the call was repeatedly declined. I kept calling, mechanically. Finally, Helen's voice came through, annoyed. Leonardo, can you stop? My heart, already resigned, still felt a sting. Ignoring her tone, I asked, Helen, are you coming home for dinner tonight? After a moment of silence, she scoffed. I'll come back if you lower your proud head and apologize to Santiago first. A week ago, Helen had helped her first love, Santiago, celebrate his birthday. Santiago posted a photo on social media, with you by my side. I'll never envy anyone else. In the photo, Santiago was making a wish with his hands clasped, surrounded by luxurious gifts. Helen stood behind him. In the warm glow of candlelight, they looked so happy. Mutual friends commented about what a great love they had. Santiago responded with a shushing emoji. I liked the post and commented, lucky you, having my wife with you. Minutes later, the post was deleted. Helen called me immediately, yelling, Leonardo, are you insane? It's Santiago's birthday, and you just had to ruin it for him. Santiago spoke softly. Helen, don't blame Leo. I was just showing off that you were with me on my birthday. Helen comforted him gently. It's not your fault. He's just being petty, taking it out on you. Her tone turned cold toward me. But he overestimated himself. Nothing is more important than your birthday. Each word was like a knife. I clenched my fists in anger, sneering. Right. Of course, your first love's birthday is more important than our wedding anniversary. Helen paused. She lowered her voice and asked, today is our anniversary. But before I could answer, Santiago's voice came through the receiver again. Leo, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I'll apologize to you in person. Whatever guilt Helen had felt seemed to vanish instantly. She comforted Santiago and continued scolding me. It's just an anniversary. We can celebrate it any year. But this is Santiago's first birthday since he came back. Can't you be a bit more generous, Leonardo? I told her clearly that I couldn't. Then I hung up. Deep love and stable emotions can never coexist, something Helen never understood. The ice cream cake, with 2 little figures kissing, slowly melted, staining the inscription of our 7th anniversary. I picked up the cake and threw it in the trash. A new message notification popped up on my phone. It was another taunt from Santiago's secret social media account. Leonardo, I told you before, if Helen ever had to choose, she'd always choose me. Do you believe it now? Just hours ago, I didn't. But now, it was a fact. Helen didn't come home that night. When I woke up, she was having breakfast in the dining room. Seeing me, she gave me a cold look and said, come with me to the office later and apologize to Santiago. He couldn't sleep all night because of your comment. I scoffed. I'm not going. I've never heard of the rightful spouse apologizing to the side piece. Leonardo, why do you have to be so harsh? She slammed the table. Santiago is just my secretary. He's lost everything. Can't you show some compassion? I smirked at her. A secretary you've slept with. Helen's expression changed. She threw her bowl to the floor, shattering it. I just watched her. Disappointment piled up in my heart. How did Helen end up like this? If you're going to be so stubborn, she spat. Then let's separate for a while. She slammed the door on her way out. She didn't come back for a week. I spent sleepless nights, my heart aching. Meanwhile, Santiago's secret account continued to update. On a business trip to Bali with the boss. Haha. The boss knew I liked little cakes. I thought she'd say it's silly for a guy to like sweets. The boss looks amazing in a bikini. I didn't argue anymore, just quietly saved the screenshots. When something has gone bad, it's best to throw it away. This morning, Santiago's post announced that they had returned from Bali. Helen's voice continued through the receiver. Leonardo, did you hear me? Snapping out of my thoughts, I answered, all right. The noisy background on her end suddenly went quiet. A few seconds later, Helen asked again, what did you say? I forced a smile. I said I'll apologize to Santiago. For the last 3 days, I'll do everything you ask, then I'll leave you forever. Chapter 3. I followed the location Helen sent me. The lively private room was buzzing with people. As soon as I appeared at the door, someone spoke up. Leo's here. The teasing voice was full of anticipation. Ever since Santiago returned, Helen and I had been fighting every few days. All our friends knew about it. I scanned the room and found Helen sitting in the center of the sofa. Our eyes met. Her expression unreadable. Santiago was sitting next to her. Leo, I heard you're here to apologize to Santiago. Right. Someone jeered. Helen's friends were the best at going with the flow. When Helen loved me, they called me Leo and never joked with me. Now that Santiago was back, anyone could see his place in Helen's heart. Their attitude toward me had changed. There was a lot more disdain. I stepped forward. Glancing at the wine glasses filled on the table, I picked one up lightly to show my sincerity. I'll drink this glass as an apology to Mr. Han. Helen tilted her head, silently watching me. The people around us were all excited, as if they were watching a show. Leo, what are you doing? Santiago suddenly stood up and grabbed the glass from my hand. Leo, you had every right to scold me. You don't need to apologize. But his expression said otherwise. He looked like I had forced him. A flicker of pain flashed in Helen's eyes, and she stood up, urging him to sit back down. If he misunderstood you, he should apologize. I'm here, so there's nothing to worry about. Santiago looked gratefully at Helen, then after a few seconds turned to me. Then, Leo, just drink this glass, and all our misunderstandings will be cleared. He smiled and handed me the glass. Leo, you're not upset now, are you? I looked at Helen and gave a faint, indifferent smile, taking the glass. Of course not. I raised the glass. Everyone here, be my witnesses. Previously, I misunderstood Helen and Mr. Han's relationship, which caused trouble for Mr. Han. Today, I'll drink this glass as self-punishment, and apologize to Mr. Han. After I finished speaking, I looked around at everyone present. They all seemed stunned. Someone whispered, is this really the Leonardo who never bows his head? Helen, sitting in the center, also looked momentarily stunned. Ignoring her fleeting look of shock, I raised my hand and downed the glass of wine. I was allergic to alcohol, others might not know, but Helen did. As I finished the glass, my body already felt like a piece of driftwood floating in a river. Someone helped steady me. Leo, don't drink anymore. Her face swam before me, and I struggled to recognize her. It was Helen's friend, Luciana. She seemed to be the only one who hadn't joined in the mocking. Thank you, I whispered to her. I then tried to look up and ask Helen if this apology was enough, but I saw Santiago quickly give a look to the others. Immediately, someone jeered loudly. Leo has a good tolerance, but one glass isn't enough to show real sincerity. They maliciously pushed a whole bottle of red wine toward me. Then they looked back at Helen. Helen, don't you think so? Helen frowned, just about to speak. Santiago's voice interrupted again. Don't say that. Leo's lowering himself to apologize to a guy like me. That's already more than I deserve. As long as Leo doesn't barge into the office to humiliate or hit me again, I'll be thankful. Helen looked at him incredulously. He barged into the office and hit you. When? Her voice rose, and the entire room went silent. Chapter 4. It was on my first day as your secretary, Santiago said. Anger rose in Helen's eyes as she turned to look at me. I admitted calmly. That's right. I did go that day. Before that, I had argued with Helen countless times because of Santiago. In the dead of night, Santiago would call her to accompany him to the hospital for stomach pain. When buying clothes, Santiago would send pictures to ask her which one looked best. We argued. We fought. Helen, can't you care a bit more about my feelings? I love you. I can't help but mind you being so close to another man. It hurts me too. You know you're the most important person to me in this world, she had said. She promised to keep her distance from Santiago. But just a few days later, I received a message from Santiago. Leo, what's the point of trying to stop me? As long as I say a few words. Helen still made me her secretary. I thought he was lying, trying to stir up trouble. I believed Helen wouldn't deceive me. But still, with a trace of unease, I went to Helen's office quietly, and there I saw Santiago, sitting in the secretary's office. He propped up his hand, looking smug. Leo, check out my watch. Helen gave it to me as a welcome gift. His smug face disgusted me. I raised my hand and punched him. Santiago, picking up someone's leftovers, aren't you disgusted? He rubbed his face but looked at me with an arrogant smile. Leo, are you scared because you feel like you're losing Helen? Now, Santiago touched his unmarked cheek and said, Leo only punched me once. I'm a grown man. One punch is nothing if it calms him down. Helen's face darkened as she looked at me, eyes filled with rage as if to swallow me whole. Leonardo, I thought you were just possessive and couldn't handle Santiago's return, but I didn't expect you to be someone who would fly into a rage and hit others. Her cold voice showed no compassion. I think even drinking the whole bottle is too lenient for you. I looked up in shock. Is that really how you see me? Helen scoffed. Actions speak louder than words. You know I can't drink. I stared at her. Helen sneered. Then what are you here for today? She looked toward the door behind me. If you're not here to apologize, you can leave now. My heart felt like it was being stabbed by 1,000 needles. It was as if a hand had clenched around my heart, making it hard to breathe. I was surprised to realize that before coming here, I thought I was ready to leave this world, but it seemed there was still a sliver of hope in my heart. Maybe it was all a misunderstanding. Maybe she still loved me, but that bottle of wine crushed that last bit of hope. Helen, I won't love you anymore. I smiled at her. If I drink this bottle, will you come home with me? Santiago also looked up at her. Helen's eyes gave nothing away as she slowly said, the person you need to apologize to is Santiago, not me, Leonardo. Adults should take responsibility for their actions. I swallowed the bitterness in my throat and nodded. All right, but in the next second, the bottle was snatched from my hand. Leo, drinking a whole bottle could kill you. Helen pursed her lips, ignoring her, and just looked at me. Leonardo, the choice is yours. I'm not forcing you. My heart had already been shattered into pieces, and now, I didn't even feel the pain. I'll drink. I took the bottle from Luciana, quietly thanked her again, and put my mouth to the bottle, gulping it down. In my daze, I seemed to see Helen pushing through the crowd, walking toward me. The bottle was taken from my hand, and my body fell heavily. Helen, this wine is damn bitter. Chapter 4. In my dream, it felt like I had returned to 7 years ago. I had just arrived in this world. Back then, Helen was repressed, in pain, and hated everyone around her. She was an illegitimate child, brought back to the Koo family only after her mother passed away. The system reminded me of the story's background. When Helen was a child and first returned to the Koo family, she wasn't liked by the other children from prominent families and was often bullied. One time, when a group of these children were shooting her with water guns, Santiago, dressed in a little suit, stepped forward to defend her. This became a cherished memory that Helen would never forget. But what she didn't know was that Santiago was only doing it to impress the heroine who was watching from a distance, trying to appear brave and kind. Helen, in all this, was merely a tool. When I arrived, Helen was already making a name for herself in the Koo family, but she was cold-blooded, ruthless in business, and not favored by the patriarch of the Koo family. I, the youngest son of a family that had been friends with the Koo family for generations, had just returned to the country and was introduced to her as a potential match. Initially, Helen had no interest in me. For an entire month, there was no progress. Then, one day, I attended a landmark negotiation on behalf of my father, and Helen was there as well. At the dinner, an important figure deliberately made things difficult for me, insisting I toast each person at the table. After one glass, my body started itching, red rashes slowly appearing. As I lifted the second glass to my lips, someone reached out and stopped me. It was Helen. She took the glass from my hand and smiled faintly at everyone. The Koo and Jean families are close. I'll take the remaining toasts on Leo's behalf. Amidst the clinking glasses, she subtly shifted the conversation away from me, and leaned in to whisper, if you're allergic to alcohol, I suggest you quietly leave now and take some medicine. I'll cover for you. I paused, looking up at her, but her eyes had already brightened as she smoothly joined in the conversation with everyone else, confident, poised, at ease. In that moment, I knew I had fallen for her. I began deliberately showing up around her, slowly softening her sharp edges, helping her build a closer relationship with the Koo family patriarch. I also used connections from the Jean family to help her secure one contract after another, increasing her influence within the Koo family. Our joint efforts left footprints across the globe. During a negotiation in Southeast Asia, we got caught in a crossfire between local factions. We were trapped for 3 days and nights. As we were about to leave the jungle, we encountered bandits. I stepped in front of her, and a bullet hit my left chest. In that critical moment, the backup we had arranged finally arrived, rescuing us from the group of desperados. In the car that took me to the hospital, Helen's eyes were swollen from crying, her tears falling heavily onto me. She was trembling all over, asking why I was so foolish, begging me to hold on. She said, we haven't had our wedding yet. You haven't become my husband. You can't die. At that moment, I really thought I would die on that land. I raised my hand to touch Helen's face and forced a smile. Don't cry, Helen. I came to this world just for you. At the same time, the system notified me, host, progress is at 100%. Congratulations. You've succeeded. Luckily, the bullet hadn't hit a fatal spot, and I survived. After 3 months of recovery, I married Helen in a grand wedding that made headlines worldwide. On countless nights after we were married, during our passionate moments, she would repeatedly tell me she loved me. By then, Santiago had already married the heroine overseas. I thought there would be no more complications in our world. In a daze, I felt someone trying to undress me. I pushed her away forcefully. Don't touch me. The person hesitated, her hand pausing over the scar left by the bullet. The wound had long healed, new flesh growing over it, but the memory of that moment was forever etched onto my body. She seemed stunned for a long time. She coaxed softly. Stop fussing. Let's get you changed and take a bath. She kept muttering things I couldn't make out. I covered her mouth. So noisy. Then suddenly, I felt a surge of sadness and gave a bitter laugh. She asked what I was laughing about. I said, my wife has fallen for someone else. I love her, but she doesn't love me anymore. She seemed stunned. After that, I don't know what happened. I fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up again, it was already daylight. Sunlight filtered through the curtains. Light and shadow danced across the bedroom. The system's voice spoke up. Host, you have to leave tomorrow. Do you have any regrets? It reminded me. Helen is just outside. As soon as the system's voice faded, Helen appeared at the door with honey water. She spoke softly, her expression somewhat unnatural as she looked at me. Leo, you're awake. Chapter 5. I didn't take the glass, instead drinking from Helen's hand. This kind of intimacy was something we hadn't shared in a long time. After Santiago came back, I found Helen repulsive, and we had been sleeping in separate rooms. Helen's eyes brightened, and a smile appeared on her lips. You knew you couldn't drink, but you insisted, she said, her voice laced with reproach. But almost immediately, she seemed to remember that she had been the cause of it all. She fell silent, a trace of guilt flashing in her eyes. It seemed like she was waiting for my usual sarcastic response. This was the way we had interacted most often recently, but I only smiled apologetically. You're right, I won't do it again. Helen looked up at me, surprised. She wanted to say something, but her mouth opened and closed without a word. I spoke first. Helen, will you come with me to see Grandpa today? She nodded immediately. Of course. Grandpa has been asking about you for a while now. We went to the supermarket together, holding hands as we walked to the health supplements section. I carefully picked out one item after another. Every now and then, I would ask for her opinion. After several times, she laughed helplessly. Are you planning to buy out the whole supermarket? I looked over and realized that the supplements I had chosen were already piled into a small mountain. Helen continued teasing. Looks like we brought the wrong car today. Should have brought a truck instead of the Bentley to carry all your loot. I smiled. Better to buy more now, so Grandpa won't run out later. We can always come back if we need more. She replied casually. I smiled without answering, just lowered my head and continued picking out items. But somehow, I felt a pair of eyes watching me, scrutinizing me. I didn't want to think too much about it and ignored it. Once I was done, I asked Helen to call the housekeeper to pick up the supplements. We only carried the best 2 items ourselves. When we reached the underground parking lot, I suddenly exclaimed, "Oh no, I forgot." Helen, seeing my anxious expression, quickly asked what was wrong. I immediately opened the car door and got out. I forgot to buy knee pads and a back brace. Grandpa's knees and back aren't in great shape. Helen followed me out of the passenger seat, grabbing my hand with an exasperated smile. It's still hot now. He doesn't need knee pads or a back brace yet. I shook my head. He'll need them when it gets cold. I ignored her attempts to stop me and kept walking toward the supermarket entrance. Helen caught up, still holding on to me. Leo, why are you in such a hurry? She was smiling gently, but I could see the unease deep in her eyes. I'll come with you to buy them in the winter. Okay. Without waiting for my response, she pulled me back to the car. Helen, forget it. I sighed inwardly. I was leaving tomorrow, and I didn't want to argue with her. Chapter 6. The car re-entered the main road, and Helen remained silent. The quiet atmosphere was somewhat awkward. I drove, my eyes unintentionally landing on the car ornament. Helen noticed and quickly explained. Santiago changed it last time he was in the car. I'll replace it with the original 8 auspicious symbols when we get home. I paused, then spoke slowly. No need to change it. This little rabbit is quite cute. The yellow light ahead turned red. I stopped the car, and Helen tilted her head to look at me, her eyes filled with questions. What's wrong? I asked. She frowned slightly. You're not angry. Before, whenever Santiago's things were around me, you would get mad. I smiled faintly. So that was it. Now that I didn't care, how could I be angry? I was wrong before. I looked calmly at the license plate of the car in front of us. You and Santiago have a bond from growing up together. Now that he's divorced, back home, and lost everything, I should be more sympathetic and considerate toward him. I shouldn't have made a big deal out of it before. I sighed softly. Helen's frown deepened. But the 8 auspicious symbols were something you personally knelt and prayed for. You really don't mind. The light ahead turned green, and I didn't answer, instead starting the car again. But in my heart, I asked myself, did I mind? My thoughts drifted back to the day I went to Mount Wutai. At that time, Helen had already fully taken control of the Ku family, but there were still many on the board who were unhappy with her. Why should a woman be in charge? Why should they be under her? Every now and then, There would be assassination attempts. I was terrified she would get hurt. So I made a special trip to Mount Wutai. I knelt and bowed 3 times, repeatedly praying in my heart for the gods to protect Helen and keep her safe. The 8 auspicious symbols ornament, blessed by the monks, was also obtained then. The 8 auspicious symbols include the parasol, golden fish, treasure vase, lotus, white conch, endless knot, victory banner, and golden wheel. They symbolize complete blessings and the ability to turn misfortune into good fortune. The entire journey involved 1,080 steps, which left my knees and forehead bruised and scraped. When I returned with the blessed item, Helen found out. She tenderly applied ice to my bruises, kissing the corners of my mouth. She took the 8 auspicious symbols ornament carefully and said that as long as it was there, she would be safe. Now, the ornament had disappeared, and I wouldn't ask about it again. The Helen I had loved wholeheartedly was the one who was passionate and wonderful, not the one now, wavering and indulgent of Santiago's provocations. Leo. She called my name, but her phone interrupted. It was Santiago. Helen hesitated, but I smiled and motioned for her to answer. Before she could react, I reached over and connected the call to the car's Bluetooth system. Helen. Santiago's voice came through. Chapter 7. Helen looked at me awkwardly. What's wrong? Santiago. Helen. I stepped on a nail, and it pierced my foot. I can't stand up right now. Can you take me to the hospital? He shifted the camera angle. In the video, there was indeed a nail sticking out of Santiago's foot, but it wasn't deep. I couldn't help but chuckle. He would go to any lengths to get Helen's attention. Hearing my laugh, Santiago's voice became deliberately anxious. Helen, is Leo there too? Am I bothering you too? He lowered his voice. I'm sorry, Helen. I didn't mean to. You know I have no family here anymore. Forget it. I'll handle it myself. On screen, Santiago pretended to try to pull the nail out, only to wince dramatically in pain. Don't move. Helen placed her hand on the car door handle, instinctively wanting to get out, but in the next moment, it was as if she remembered something. She spoke gently to Santiago. Leo and I have some things to take care of right now, so I can't come. I'll call Luciana to go over. I looked at Helen in surprise. The video call ended. Helen blinked awkwardly. Why are you looking at me like that? Before I could answer, a sarcastic laugh escaped me. So, she knew how to say no. She could see through Santiago's little tricks. What, then, had all our arguments and her repeated defenses been for? Seeing I wasn't answering, she dialed Luciana's number on her own, asking her to check on Santiago. Luciana shot back. Girl, I can help you with other things, but I can't do this. Just seeing that green tea guy makes me sick. You always pity him, but his misery isn't Leo's fault. Don't blame me for not warning you. If you keep letting him lead you by the nose, you'll end up really hurting Leo one day. The system suddenly spoke. Host, this Luciana is a true friend. The unexpected voice startled me, and I almost crashed into the car in front of us. Helen was the one who steadied the steering wheel, preventing the crash. I instinctively thanked her. She looked momentarily surprised, then said, Leo, we're husband and wife, no need to be so formal. I composed myself. I need to focus on driving. Just as we were about to reach the Ku family estate, Helen's phone rang again. It was Santiago. Helen showed a flash of irritation as she answered. What now? Her cold tone seemed unfamiliar to Santiago. He was silent for a few seconds. Helen, are you really not going to help me? Chapter 8. We were almost at the old estate. Helen looked conflicted. I smiled at her. Go see Santiago first. He's hurt and needs someone with him. She looked at me sadly. You need someone too, Helen. Santiago's voice suddenly rose. You promised me when we were kids that you'd always be there whenever I needed you. Did you forget? Helen's body stiffened, and she instinctively looked at me. I chuckled. Indifferent. We're not far from Grandpa's. You drive, and I'll take a cab. Helen wanted to say more, but I was firm. She agreed to go to Santiago, but insisted on taking me to the estate first. When we arrived at the entrance, she stopped. Leo, how about you go see Grandpa first, and I'll be back soon. I watched her get into the driver's seat and start the car without wasting a second. The shadow of her car grew smaller and then disappeared from my sight. Helen, goodbye. My phone vibrated with a notification. It was a private message from Santiago. Leonardo, do you think relying on that old man will keep Helen? You've lost. I typed calmly, are you sure? I had leaked today's schedule with Helen to Santiago. Him calling on the way was also part of my plan. Even though this same scenario had played out countless times, I didn't mind one more. When I leave this place, it will deepen Helen's guilt and regret. From her reaction earlier, it was clear she still had feelings for me. Maybe, if I had asked her to stay today, she would have ignored Santiago and stayed with me. But that late awakening, I'm disgusted by it. I'm curious to see if she'll still feel so confident after today. My thoughts were interrupted as Grandpa came out of the estate, leaning on his cane. His gray hair glistened in the sunlight. the old man who had given me the most love and care in this world. It was finally time for our last goodbye. No one would guess that this kind and amiable old man had once been a powerful figure who navigated both legal and illegal worlds. Take a good look. Isn't it true that our Leo's grown some gray hair too? Grandpa laughed, addressing the housekeeper beside him. I was confused by his words. The housekeeper laughed and explained. The old master is saying that Mr. Jean is still so young. Why has he suddenly become so talkative? I couldn't help but laugh. Tomorrow I'd be leaving this world for good, and I couldn't help but say a few extra words. I hadn't expected this old man to tease me for it. Night slowly fell. By the time I was about to leave, Helen still hadn't come. Grandpa cursed a few times and immediately told the housekeeper to call her and have her come for a scolding. The system chimed in. Don't worry, host. I've blocked Helen's phone. Sure enough, the housekeeper shook his head helplessly. Grandpa grew more furious. Find out where she is right away. Seeing his anger, I hurried to pat his back and calm him down. He looked at me, concern in his eyes. How long has she been ignoring you like this? I smiled bitterly, shaking my head. No, Grandpa. Helen's just busy today. You're still defending her. Grandpa grew even angrier. I knew the more I pretended to be magnanimous now, the harsher the punishment for Helen and Santiago tomorrow would be. After all, everyone in the Ku family knew that Grandpa favored me far more than Helen. After settling Grandpa into his room, the system explained. Host, Helen didn't mean not to come. I made her car's tires blow out. It paused. 3 cars in a row. I refused Grandpa's offer to have someone drive me. Helen will be here soon. Tell Grandpa not to worry. Then, I slowly walked out of the estate, according to the plan between me and the system. Shortly after leaving the estate, I would be intercepted by robbers and killed. Chapter 9. As the cold blade pierced my abdomen, the system detached my consciousness from my body. Bright red blood flowed down the knife, staining the asphalt beneath me dark. Thankfully, I didn't feel any pain. The system manipulated my phone to dial Helen for one final call. She couldn't answer. In the nights to come, she would remember again and again how she abandoned me for Santiago, and how she didn't answer my last desperate call, losing the chance to save me. The robbers panicked when they realized they had killed someone and fled. Minutes later, my phone buzzed. Wife calling, but no one would ever answer again. My body lay twisted in an unnatural position, ribs and knees broken. The robbers, wanting to leave no trace, slashed over a dozen times. The system couldn't bear to watch, covering my eyes. Sorry, I might have gone too far, it said. I shook my head. It's all right. Otherwise, how would Helen be haunted by this forever? The phone kept buzzing insistently. I watched in silence. The system had told me that on my last day in this world, I would exist as a soul. Chapter 10. 2 hours later, Helen followed the phone's GPS to find my body. The scene before her left her utterly frozen. Helen reached out in disbelief, her trembling hand checking my breathing. The emptiness she felt made her entire body shiver. She collapsed to the ground. The system spat. What's the point of looking so regretful now? Leo, wake up. She sobbed uncontrollably, pressing her hands against my wounds. But there were too many, and the blood had long since drained away, though my soul had left my body. Seeing the jagged cuts still made my heart ache. Helen tried to lift me, to carry me to the hospital, but how could she possibly manage? Bring the car here, she screamed. The housekeeper, sent by Grandpa to search for me, quickly brought the car over, but upon seeing my state, he gasped. Mr. Jean, he's badly hurt. The system and I sat in the back seat, watching as Helen floored the accelerator, running red lights one after another. The housekeeper, terrified, pleaded with her to slow down, to be careful. Helen snapped back at him every time. On our way to the hospital, all the specialists from the Ku family's private hospital were called in. She placed me on a hospital bed, her eyes red as she warned them. This is my husband. I don't care what you have to do, save him. The team of specialists, all over 40, took turns trying, but they could only shake their heads in despair at my lifeless body. One of them gently advised, Miss Ku, it might be better to find a good mortician to make sure Mr. Jean looks presentable. What did you say? Helen's eyes, swollen from crying, widened in disbelief. You haven't even tried resuscitating him. How dare you declare him dead? If Leo can't be saved, you'll all pay with your lives. The specialists, pressured by her authority, reluctantly moved me to the ICU, attempting futile efforts. The system covered its ears. Host, she's lost her mind. I was amused, but my smile was interrupted by a sudden commotion. Grandpa had arrived. His hunched frame shook uncontrollably, his cane striking the floor heavily. How could you make Grandpa bury his own grandson? My eyes stung with tears. I whispered an apology. Sorry, Grandpa. I broke my promise. I won't be able to visit you again. In the next moment, Grandpa's cane was thrown forcefully at Helen. It's all your fault. Grandpa pointed a trembling finger at her. his voice filled with fury. I just found out you've been spending time with that Han boy recently. Leo was so heartbroken, yet he still defended you in front of me. He approached Helen, trembling, and slapped her. Do you think you're worthy of Leo? Have you forgotten he's not only your husband but also the one who saved your life? Those words left the elderly man nearly breathless. The specialists rushed to provide first aid for Grandpa. Helen collapsed on the floor, her vacant eyes staring at my body, tears streaming down her face. I thought you'd never leave me, Leo. I was wrong. I regret it. Please, wake up and talk to me. The ICU was deathly silent. The only response was the echo of her heart-wrenching cries. Chapter 11, Helen's Perspective. Helen easily unlocked my phone. The password was the date of our wedding. Her hand trembled as she lit up the screen, and the first thing that appeared was the private message interface on Weibo. With just one glance, Helen felt as if she'd been electrocuted, frozen in place, her eyes full of shock. She slowly scrolled through the screen. The provocations and insults from Santiago over the past few months unfolded before her, one by one, without a single word missing. In that moment, Helen's world seemed to completely collapse. She watched the indulgence she had once shown Santiago transform into countless venomous snakes, biting into her husband. A vibration came from WeChat, and Helen switched to the WeChat interface. It was a message from my personal doctor, Mr. Jean. Why haven't you come for follow-up treatment recently? She scrolled up. Soon, she found the diagnosis that confirmed I had severe depression. Diagnosis: extreme emotional distress, complete lack of vitality, frequent feelings of helplessness and despair, suicidal ideation, significant sleep disturbances. Helen looked at the date of the diagnosis. It felt familiar. Suddenly, she remembered. That was the day Santiago joined Q Corp as her secretary. The doctor had asked, "Why do you feel this way?" Leonardo had replied, "My wife's first love came back. She often leaves me for him and fights with me. She wasn't like this before." A few minutes later, Leonardo had added, "I think she might not love me anymore." Helen closed her eyes slowly. Tears fell, soaking the front of her clothes. Her mouth opened and closed, as if struggling to speak. Bitterness filled her mouth. After a long while, her voice finally became audible. Leo, I'm sorry. I love you. I'm sorry for making you endure so much pain." 2 lines of tears streamed from my eyes as well. My soul was gradually fading. I looked at the system and could see in its eyes that my time in this world was ending. Suddenly, to my surprise, I saw Helen's gaze meet mine. "Leo." She frantically reached out to the empty air, trying to hold on to me, to stop me from leaving. I gave her a wry smile. "Helen, I have no final words for you, nor will I accept your apology." As the words left my lips, my soul dissipated completely under Helen's shattered gaze. Chapter 12. When I woke up again, I was in a hospital bed. The orphanage director, my foster mother, was crying with joy. "Leo, you're awake." She didn't have time to talk to me. She ran to call for the doctor. That's when I remembered that in my original world, I had died saving someone. My soul had entered the book Transmigration Bureau. The director told me that anyone who died saving someone was given a chance to be reborn. All I had to do was complete the mission assigned during the book Transmigration, and I could be reborn in my original world. In the real world, people often called this a medical miracle. My transmigration mission was to win over the obsessive supporting character, Helen. After recovering and being discharged from the hospital, I returned to the orphanage, continuing my work as deputy director. I had been thrown here as a baby, and I stayed on as I grew up, helping to raise more children. That night, after all the kids had gone to bed, I brewed a pot of tea and sat in the yard for one final chat with the system. "Host, Santiago is dead," it said. "Huh?" I was surprised. "Why?" Those robbers already had blood on their hands. I made sure that when Grandpa caught them, they implicated Santiago. I gave the system a thumbs up in admiration. But the system wasn't done. "He died worse than you did. You know Grandpa used to run the underworld, right? He liked you so much, he did it himself." The system didn't finish the sentence, only making a throat-slitting gesture. I could imagine just how ruthless Grandpa's methods were. "And Helen, after you left, Grandpa nearly beat her to death too. She gave up on herself, going to your grave every day to drink until she was drunk. She won't last long before she dies of alcohol poisoning." I clicked my tongue in amazement. What a pity, no one left to inherit the Ku family fortune. The system gave a sly smile. A stack of bank cards appeared before me. "Once Helen dies, the Ku family's assets will be transferred to these cards by the book Transmigration Bureau." Host, are you ready to be super rich? In the quiet summer night, my shout of excitement echoed. I am ready.